Hi, welcome to Salient Features in Kotlin. In this section, we're going to discuss operator overload, delegation, property delegation, null safety, sealed classes, and enum classes. Operator overload. In this video, we're going to discuss implementing operator overload, unary operators, increments and decrements, as well as arithmetic operators. Going back to Android Studio, we're all familiar with functions, simple mathematic functions, such as if we go over here and we say something like val number equals 1 plus 2. We all understand what this means, and we know that this value is added to this value using this operator. Now, Kotlin has added a new feature where you can say, for example, note plus note. Now this is giving us an error because we haven't implemented it yet. However, we have the ability to actually do this. So we'll just remove this for here. And what we'll do is we're going to go into the note class and we're going to give it a body. And what we're going to do is we're going to type operator function and we're going to say unary plus. And then we're going to return a note from this and we'll give it a body. And for this case, we're just going to return this. But what we've actually done here is we have allowed the note to have a unary plus symbol in front of it. Now we want to add a unary minus. You see that it's errored out because it's actually not implemented yet. So what we'll do here is we'll say operator fun unary minus. And now here we can actually return anything that we want. So what we'll do here is we'll just reverse the title and the body. We'll switch them around. So we'll say return body title. So now we can say instead of plus note, we'll say minus note. Okay, so in our save function, just so we can test this out, we'll make a new variable and we'll call it inverse note equals minus note. And we'll take inverse note and we'll save the title and the body. Now let's test this out. And what we're expecting to see is once we save the note, the title and the body will be switched. Let's go back to our emulator here. Okay, so let's create a new note and we'll say this is the title and our body will be this is the body. Okay, let's save. And as we can see, since we inverted the note, it's actually switched the title and the body around. And if we open it up, it'll switch them. And if we save it, it'll actually create a new one because we're actually checking for the title, and since the title doesn't exist, it's switching it back around. If we go back to the note class, we now have a unary plus and minus. There are a bunch of other things we can add, such as increments. So we can say operator function, and we'll say inc. You'll notice also the type ahead here shows us all the possibilities that we can do. We can do times, we can do minus, we can do divide, and we'll get to the arithmetics after the increments. For the increments, we want inc, and then again, we'll return a note. What we'll do for the increment, we will return a note where the title is the title that we have, but we're going to change the title so that it adds a 2 in parentheses, like that. So when we increment, when we say note plus plus, we'll get a second note with a 2 in the bracket. Now, this is only for demonstration purposes. Obviously, if we run this again, if we run note plus plus, note plus plus, note plus plus, we won't get title 2, 3, and 4. We'll just keep getting 2 over and over again. But this is just to show us that we can have an increment function. Now, what we'll do here in our note controller, we'll actually get rid of this inverse note now because we don't actually want that functionality. So we'll switch this back to note. And we'll add a simple loop here. So we'll say get all, and we'll give it the context. And then we'll say for each, using the lambda, we'll say if it, being the note that we're looping through, dot title is equal to note dot title, then what we want to do is we want to create a new note with the 2 in there. So we're actually going to need to create a new note called note to save, and that'll be a note. And what we'll do here is we'll say note to save equals note, note plus plus. And it's telling us val cannot be reassigned. So in order to fix this, what we'll do is we'll assign note to save initially to be the value of note. And then we will just call note to save plus plus. Now what this will do is it'll loop through all the notes and it'll see if we have one with the same title as the one we're trying to save, it'll just add a 2 to that note title. So let's run this to see if it's working. As you can probably tell, I already tested this and it seems to be working. So let's say this is the title. So we'll create a new note with the same title. This is the title. And we'll say this is the second note with this title. And then let's save that. And it actually just saved over it. Now, the reason it saved over it is because if you remember, in our note activity, in the on-click listener for the save button, we're actually deleting any note that has the same title. So what we'll do is we'll comment that out so that we can just go ahead into the save and we can increment the title if we have another note with the same title. So let's run that and see how it looks. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to create another one called this is the title, and we'll say this is the second note with this cool title. Save. Okay, and again it wrote over it. Now the reason it actually wrote over it this time is because in our note controller we're still saving note, which is the original note over here. We just need to switch that to note to save. You have to pay attention to detail when you're writing code, otherwise you fall into silly mistakes like that. So let's rerun our project here and we'll see if we got it all right this time. So now we'll say this is the title and we'll save the body as this is my final try. Save, and there we go. So now this is our original note and our second note is called this is the title, and the title has incremented here, and as we can see there's a 2 within parentheses. If we go back to our note class, we can do some arithmetic operators here as well. So we'll say operator function and we'll say we want to do minus. So we'll do minus here, and the cool thing is when it comes to arithmetic operators you actually don't need to return a note and you don't need to add 2 notes together. We can actually take a note and subtract an integer from it, or we can add a string to it, or we can add any other object to it. So for example, if we want to, let's do plus instead of minus. So we can say plus a string, and then what we can return here is we can return a new note where the title is the same, but body plus string. And obviously we need to add the return type. Okay, so now what we can do is we can say instead of note to save plus plus, we can say note to save equals note plus, we can add a string that's, we can say 2, or we can say second, just so we can differentiate it. So now if we run it and we create another note with the same title as a note that already exists, we should see this as added to the title. So let's run it and see if that happens. Okay, so again we have a note here called this is the title, so let's use that as our example. This is the title, and we can just add anything for the body. And if we save it, it actually added second to the body, as we expected. Now something cool to note here is the note in the note class is when you have your operators, you can use your type ahead. So you can type in A, for example, and see minus a sign, plus a sign. So if we did plus a sign, we can do something similar here. And in our note controller, we could just do plus equals second instead of having to say equals note plus second. You can see a full list of the operator overloads on kotlinlang.org.